So, new channel, new format, new topics that we're going to be discussing, podcasts of all things. How did we get here? Well, let's put down the coffee and let's have a chat around this, shall we? Hi, everybody. I'm Tennessee Fats, and you're listening to or watching the first video that's going to be posted into the Tennessee Fats library, which is going to be a YouTube channel as well as, and the primary focus being, a podcast going forward. So welcome to the channel, and if you're watching this, welcome once again to my desk. If you found your way here and you're watching this, or I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, this actually has worked out accurately and correctly. This is translated over to a podcast and you've clicked on something in some streaming service and you're actually listening to this. I think you're going to want a quick introduction here as to what we do and what we're going to do and how this whole thing is going to play out. So I'm not selling you a bill of goods that you're not really interested in. So let me run through this for you here. So let's just take the Cole's notes here and walk through this. First of all, this is going to be a slower pace. And I'm warning you that right now. If you're wondering, Tennessee Fats, why are you talking so slow here? Tennessee Fats, where's the hat? Tennessee Fats. If you've watched any of the other videos, this is going to be entirely different. This is stripped down to the nth degree. All right? About 5 years ago, I started producing content on my main channel here on YouTube, which is Tennessee Fats channel. And we started doing those things on a regular basis. And on that channel, we discussed a lot of things. I discussed sword and sorcery topics, fantasy topics, other related things that I'm reading that are around the genre or adjacent to it. But really what we focus on there are things that are out there in literature, and then we discuss, oftentimes, their interplay with comics or magazine formats. Or we're really drilling down into the comics or magazines themselves just to discuss them. Really, that channel circles around and encompasses the whole comic collecting culture. And there's a reason for that. I come from that culture, so I get it, and this is why I talk about it. But I've never really had a chance on that channel to do something I've always wanted to do, which is take a deep dive into many of the pieces of literature that we cover just on the surface there. And don't get me wrong, there have been a whole lot of times where on that channel I've said, here is what I'm talking about today, and here's what I'm reading right now. But I always edit those, and I mean really edit those. And it's funny because if you've watched those, and trust me, I've read the comments, guys, I get it. I babble a lot. Editing that down to the point where we got it was actually a real effort, okay? But in that, I'm editing out a lot of the material that is, okay, well, I don't want to spoil this, so here's what happened in broad brushstrokes. But I never get to talk about the core. And I mean the meat and the potatoes of each of those stories. And by core, I mean what really happened in them. And when we get to that, how did these themes interplay? And how did they make me feel as a reader? Because I can only speak from my experience. I can't tell you you're going to feel this because all of us bring different baggage to the table when we read a book. But sometimes there's a story that really does get me in the feels. Sometimes there's a story where I'll say, you know what, I think this is going to really get you in the feels. And that's something I've never been able to do because I've never been able to dive into those stories in great detail. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love what I do on that channel, and I am not stopping by any means. I'm going to keep doing those things, and I'm going to keep running through it there because I have a lot of fun doing that. But I'm also being left with a feeling many times when I'm getting into literature where I'm leaving something on the table. It's like I get halfway through a sentence and suddenly the muzzle comes on and you just don't go any further. So after finishing the biggest project I did on that channel, which was a 4-year-long project, just about a month and a bit ago, I started stepping back and asking myself some critical questions. I kept that pace up to finish that giant project, but when it was done, I gave myself a little break. And that critical question I was asking myself was, well, am I getting everything out of this that's really fulfilling my need in producing these things? Am I getting the payback emotionally for what I'm putting into this by doing it? And this video and this channel and these podcasts that are going to come out of this are the results of that very question and the answer to myself of what am I going to do next. So this is a side channel. It's not a side project, it's a side channel. It's a sister channel to what we have over there. If you want to check out that channel, feel free. If you don't worry about it, because I'm not going to discuss anything here where you have to have watched that to get it. So what are we going to do here? Well, Cole's notes, exactly what you're getting right now. I'm going to sit at the desk. I'm going to pick up pieces that I've read, and I'm going to walk through them. Now, I'm going to have a little screen in front of me here, right underneath the camera, that I'm going to look down to, that I've got my notes on. But the idea here is that we do all of these in a single take. So yes, as we go through these things, I'm going to fumble. As we go through these things, I'm going to make mistakes in the wording. But as I say, this is just an honest discussion of the book. Just sitting and talking through the material. Now, I'm going to be the first person to admit, sitting and watching me talk about a book is probably the most boring thing that I could punish somebody with. I would not wish that on anybody, because I am incredibly critical of myself, and quite frankly put, I don't like the way I sound or look. But we live with what we got. And I think the podcast version of this is probably the safer way to do this. Forget all the distractions that are around, fancy edits or background music or any of that noise. Just sit and listen to us discuss the books. Really explore the theater of the mind that comes from reading a book. So each video is going to be that. We're going to create one playlist, and that one playlist is going to be the Tennessee Fats Library episode 1, 2, 3, all the way through. And in each one in the title, I'll tell you what book or story I have read, and then we'll walk through the actual meat and potatoes of that story. So if you want to hear me babble on about Tarzan while you're on a treadmill, get the podcast. If you want to, hear me talk about the Warlord of Mars or something else like that, get the podcast. That's what it's there for. You want to make sure you have this with you and it's movable and you don't have to sit and stare at a screen all day. Now, I am going to give you guys this warning right now. If you've watched my other videos, and this is the last time I'm going to comment on this, the pace there is different than here. This is going to be slower. And I know I have heard more than enough comments about my old man rambling on the other channel. It's going to be worse here. There's no editing. It's just me with a couple of notes sitting in front of a microphone. I do asides inside of asides that are inside of asides just to get to the point of a story. And I actually think those asides actually add value. That's just my 2 cents. Not everybody's going to agree with that, but I do think it's one of those features. It's not a flaw, totally a feature. So, fairly warned be ye, says I. That's going to be in here. So that's really it. It's funny. I didn't make any notes about how I would close this one off, and I've gone through all the notes of the things I wanted to cover here. And I thought I would have something pithy to say at the end of this, but I actually don't, because this is just an intro video where I'm not discussing a story. So since this is the intro video or podcast and recording that's going to go into our playlist, I guess I can only close this one off by saying, let's get into the Tennessee Fats Library episode number 1.